Yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Again, we were told the best are out here looking already. Just to stay put. They have more questions. I don't want you guys thinking we didn't try. We actually looked before we called the police.
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Character Productions. My name is Carrie, and this is Dimwit Criminals. The trial for adoptive parents Trezell and Jacqueline West is set to begin later this month. I thought it important to bring everyone up to date on the case, and in another video we'll discuss the attorneys and the judge in the case as well to kind of prepare you guys before the trial begins. So let's go back to why we're here. Orrin and Orson West, born Classic and Sincere Pettis. Orrin was 4 years old and Orson was 3 years old. They were reported missing from their California City home on December 21st, 2020. According to the father, they had been playing outside in the early evenings. He was gathering firewood. The boys disappeared. He later realized that he had left a gate open. The father says he briefly went indoors, and when he came back out, the children were missing. He supposedly conducted a frantic search of the neighborhood before calling 911. Now, at the time of this all going on, Jacqueline West, the adopted mother, was inside wrapping Christmas presents. Speculation grew immediately about these adoptive parents. While everyone else, including the biological family of Orrin and Orson, were out looking for them, Trezell and Jacqueline West stayed away from public eyes. In fact, they disappeared so quickly, it was discovered that they had returned to the apartment complex on Lotus Lane in Bakersfield, where they had previously lived before moving to California City in September. So that brings up the point. They were new to the area in California City. Now, this is a desert-style town. You look at the overview of it, it just, to me, it just doesn't look like an attractive area to live. But I'm sure it has many perks. There's not a lot going on around this area. It's like this one little town in the middle of the desert. Finally, Trezell and Jacqueline West, before moving back to Bakersfield, they did peek outside their home at one point and did give an interview.
Okay.
From our yard.
Okay. It was cold. I was going to make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two would go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. We keep them close. So I was playing with chalk, and I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them there. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that hadn't panned out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see me. So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there, and we wanted to keep searching. But everybody came out in droves, and I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching, and we appreciate it, and nobody ever could tell, we could never talk to anybody, and that was the issue.
There was also some talk of neighbors' outdoor cameras catching footage of Trezell and Jacqueline coming and going from their home prior to the supposed disappearance, but there weren't enough children with them. You see, they had children of their own and they had other adopted children. So, of course, the public eye were all like, oh, they were those types of people that they were just into fostering and adopting children for the government assistance. Could be. According to prosecutors, Orrin and Orson were unalived 3 months before they were reported missing. To this day, their bodies have not been found. Now, Trezell and Jacqueline were arrested in March of 2021. They each faced 7 charges: 2 counts of second-degree unaliving, 2 counts of child cruelty, falsely reporting an emergency, and involuntary manslaughter and conspiracy. Involuntary manslaughter is defined under California law as when a person commits a crime or a lawful act in an unlawful manner that causes the death of another person, but they did not intend to kill or they did not act with conscious disregard for human life. It's also good to note here that as soon as the children went missing, their biological family stepped up. Not only were they part of the search efforts, but they also stood outside the home of Jacqueline and Trezell West because they wanted answers and they wanted them to come out from hiding and speak and tell the truth. The biological mother was very adamant that from the get go, she knew something was not right. She had reported Jacqueline and Trezell for mistreatment of the children already because when she had visited with them in the past, she saw signs of what she thought was abuse or mistreatment. They'd lost weight, they weren't acting right. Like I said, a lot of people were suspicious about them. The police and the FBI searched the West home and seized phones and other electronic devices. Their van was towed and inspected, and they also dug in the backyard. So they've got the other 4 children in their custody, right? They had 2 adopted and 2 biological children. They all immediately were placed into protective custody. Now, on December 29th, 2020, the California City Police Chief, John Walker, announced foul play was suspected and said a second search of the home had been conducted and unidentified items seized for analysis. Do you guys recall in watching the footage of this case how they were finding the children's clothes or they were finding children's clothes laying about in the area? I think there was 1 or 2 pieces maybe that were found. Walker told the media, I can't comment on whether I think they're alive or not. I do suspect foul play. We haven't been able to put together how the boys got out of the yard or where they've gone. Now, not only were people outside the home waiting for Trezell and Jacqueline to come out, there were vandals throwing rocks at the home. And they also had some attempted break ins. So they had to board up this house eventually. But the police told them, look, our priority is to find out where these boys are and get their safe return. And the truth has to and will come to light. Just by looking at the pictures of these little sweethearts, you can see that they touched America. Local businesses began offering rewards, and by mid March, they had a total reward amount of $125,000. They began holding candlelight vigils both in California City and in Bakersfield, where the West had previously lived. And this is where the Bakersfield home comes back into play. The Bakersfield Police Department took over the investigation, and in March, 50 officers and FBI agents scoured a dirt lot near Casa Loma Apartments. 3 months they were missing. We were all watching intently, waiting for updates on what the police were finding at these homes. But the boys remained missing and no arrests were made. On June 1st, 2021, police gave an update detailing efforts that had been made to locate Orrin and Orson. At that point, 44 search warrants had been served and 83 people had been interviewed, along with 170 items which had been seized. Police said 16 mass area searches had been conducted. Investigators had searched 3 locations outside the state, and more than 200 tips were followed up on. Data was continuing to be extracted from cellular and electronic devices, and seized items were being forensically examined. Charles Pettis, the biological father of Orrin and Orson, did come forward to speak to the media. He said, I don't want my kids to be deceased. I want them to come back home because my kids is all I got. After my parents go, it's just me and my kids. Now, I'm not going to get in the background too much of why these children were not in their biological mother and father's hands. What I will say is that they were removed because at one point the biological mother had come home from work. Orrin was not, this was before Orson was born. Orrin was in pain. He was crying. She took him to the hospital and he had 2 broken legs. After that incident, they took Orrin away. Later, when Orson was born, they removed him as well because, according to the California state laws, they try to keep the children together. So on March 1st of 2021, the grand jury indicted Trezell and Jacqueline West on 2 counts of second-degree unaliving, 2 counts of child cruelty, and falsely reporting an emergency. Later, there were more charges added. The Wests were arrested and held without bail. And everyone was thrilled at that point because they finally started to see something, and everyone's suspicions were on point. The question now was, where are the boys?
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Zimmer. I am Kern County's District Attorney. This morning, I'm saddened to announce that the investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased. The investigation has also revealed that they died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing. Naturally, the first 2 counts carry the most time in state prison, murder. It is charged as murder in the second degree. That carries 15 years to life, but with 2 victims, the potential penalty or the maximum possible penalty, if convicted, is 30 years to life for each defendant, Trezell and Jacqueline West. Department 1 Superior Court judge issued warrants for the arrest of the defendants, and they were arrested last night at about 7 p.m. in Kern County. The announcement of an indictment in this case probably raises a lot of questions about the facts of the case and what you and the public would like to know. I'm not permitted to go over the facts of the case in this case, but there is something that I'd like to discuss. However, one of the questions that I'm sure you would like to know is, have the bodies of Orrin and Orson been found? And the answer to that is no. They have not been found.
So there was a lot going on in the scenes that the public was not aware of. And because it was getting so much media attention, that was even more reason for them to keep it kind of under wraps for protection of the case. They suspected the Wests from the get-go. They were suspicious from the beginning, but the police could not give out any information for fear that too much information could hurt the case. By seeking charges through an indictment, prosecutors could keep the proceedings confidential and have witnesses testify privately instead of in open court. Then on March 8, 2021 is when they put the gag order in place. And it applies to not only the attorneys, the investigators, any kind of law enforcement. It also applies to witnesses and court personnel with access to reports filed in the case. Grand jury transcripts and search warrants were also sealed. And until the trial begins, we're not going to know what really happened or what the police has put together as to what happened. So this trial is something that we've all been waiting on for quite some time, and it's going to reveal a lot of information for us. The biological parents of Orrin and Orson have taken legal action against the county, saying that they were negligent by the Department of Human Services by contributing to the boys' deaths. They're seeking $40 million. I think that's a lot of money. I want to see this money put to good use. I don't know. I think there's several of you that would agree with me on that, and I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. It just seems like that amount of money is awfully large. And yes, the boys were taken away. And yes, she had been trying to get them back. And the grandmother had even tried to get custody of the children before they were legally adopted. And I think that's where I think that's where a lot of this comes in, is that it was as if the biological family was just dismissed by the Department of Human Services. In some of these cases, you don't know what's going on. Was it their fault? Was it there more about the biological family that we needed to know? I do believe, though, in this case, in this specific case, Ryan Dean was trying to get her kids back, and she was trying to get them adopted into her biological family rather than outside of the family. Now, when they took Orrin away, he was only 3 months old. When he was crying uncontrollable, she took him to the hospital, and they found out that he had broken legs. And Charles Pettis, their biological father, he had been home with the child all day. So here we have another situation to where a mother's at work and the father is sitting at home, supposedly watching the children, but somehow or another, the children are not either being watched or they're being abused. We don't know in this case really what the deal was, but yeah. Mm. In June of 2017 is when she gave birth to Orson, and then he was released into her care according to the claim, but days later taken away. Dean wrote a letter expressing her concerns about what she perceived was improper care of her children by the West family. And she claimed that her children had lost a lot of weight, they seemed scared, and Orson also had scratches on his face. The biological grandmother had filed requests to have the boys placed in her custody, but Human Services didn't ignore that. They just denied it. So Dean's attorney is saying that this lawsuit they're filing was put together to help prevent other families from going through the suffering Dean has experienced. So hopefully, maybe they'll start a fund. One could have already been started, to help parents that are trying to get their children back into their custody. And if that's the case, then I'm all for them going for that 40 million. Okay. When Dean did write that letter to Child Services about how she felt that they weren't getting proper care in their foster home before they were legally adopted by the West, she never even got a response letter back. So she's got several legs to stand on there. Her mother even went through parenting classes and a psychological review, all trying to get the kids back. We still don't know, so the police suspect that they're not alive, but we still don't know what the police suspect happened to unalive them. I do love the fact that there is a criminal protective order that's going to bar the West from seeing their two biological children and two remaining adopted children. Praise Jesus. And that's good, because I think I was suspecting this from the beginning, that these kids know something. They know a lot more. They know more than anybody next to the West themselves. So I can't wait to hear what the information they found out from these children. I hope that they don't have to put them up on a stand, but I can guarantee you there's some information there. Now, of course, the prosecuting attorney or the defense attorney is going to say that they tainted their witnesses, but that's always done when they have children involved in the court case. So, jury selection is going to begin on March 20th, everyone. And the opening statements are expected to be presented towards the end of March, like the last week in March. So, stay tuned. If it is televised, I hope to be putting up some videos showing some key moments in this trial. If not, maybe we can live stream it. We'll see what we're able to do. But until then, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you'll be notified when we drop a new video. Everyone stay safe and have a blessed day. Thanks for watching.